Welcome back to our special coverage of the 2024 election following the exit of Nikki Haley today from the Republican presidential primary race. For his part, President Biden is already reaching out to Haley's supporters. Mr. Biden saying in a campaign statement today, quote, Donald Trump made it clear he doesn't want Nikki Haley's supporters. I want it to be clear there is a place for them in my campaign. And joining us now is Michael Tyler, Communications Director for the Biden 2024 campaign. Michael, thanks so much for being with us. First of all, how do you persuade Nikki Haley supporters to get behind President Biden without even further losing the young people, the progressives, the people in Michigan and elsewhere who voted uncommitted or no preference in some of the states last night, who are really angry at Joe Biden?
Well, thank you so much for having me, Andrea. And I think the way that we do that is by communicating exactly what Nikki Haley said about Donald Trump when she was communicating the fundamental threat that he presents to American democracy. If you stood with Nikki Haley when she was calling out Donald Trump's hatred, his division, the chaos that he represents, that is not a radical notion, right? That is a mainstream notion. I think the vast majority of the American people share. So as we move forward, whether you're a Democrat, an independent, or a moderate Republican who continues to reject the MAGA extremism that's embodied by Donald Trump, there is a home for you in Joe Biden's campaign. So we're encouraging all those folks to take the opportunity today to go to joebiden.com, sign up, donate, because it's time for everybody to be all aboard this effort to defeat Donald Trump once and for all. We are now in a general election, and this is what is at stake.
And, you know, President Biden has been much more forceful and direct in his attacks on Donald Trump recently, calling him a loser several times. Will he dial this up even more between now and Election Day?
Well, Donald Trump certainly is a loser. He lost in 2020 by over 7 million votes to Joe Biden. And he's a loser right now on the campaign trail because his agenda is incredibly unpopular. It's as dangerous as it is unpopular. When you're out here talking about the role that you played in overturning Roe, when you're rooting for the economy to crash because you think it's going to help yourself, when you're pledging to serve as a dictator on day one, that is a losing agenda that the American people have rejected time and time again. They did so in 2020. They did so in 2022. They've done so as recently as the fall elections in 2023. So that's the contrast that the president is prepared to carry forth over the course of the next 8 months. Absolutely, we're going to call out Donald Trump and his losing agenda every single day.
Any plans to reach out to Liz Cheney, who just posted on X this morning, there are 8 months to stop Donald Trump? Is there room in the Biden campaign tent for Liz Cheney?
Well, yeah, I can't speak to any specific outreach efforts regarding her, but the point is everybody who understands the fundamental stakes of this election, everybody who understands the existential threat that Donald Trump poses to American democracy, you absolutely have a place in this fight on Joe Biden's campaign, right? We are all committed to making sure that we protect American democracy, that we protect our fundamental freedoms, and then we can continue to build on the progress that we've seen over the course of the last 3 years under this administration. So there is room for Democrats, for independents, for moderate Republicans, everybody who is rejecting the MAGA extremism that now confronts us in Donald Trump. This is the fundamental choice right now as we head into a general election. So we are welcoming everybody who understands the stakes.
Now, the polling shows, Michael, that age and fitness continue to be something that voters are raising. New York Times Siena poll showed more Biden supporters. 47% said that Joe Biden is too old to be effective. That number was only 21% among Trump supporters, even though he's only 3 or 4 years younger. So, you know, what can he do to project more strength and that he's more energetic? You know, we know what he is behind closed doors. We've heard all the validations from all the cabinet people, all the people close to him. But it's very clear that this campaign is, you know, keeping him close to home. And he's not going to big crowds anymore. He's not out that much among people other than, you know, to go to closed fundraisers. Doesn't he have to be out there more to show his strength beyond, you know, when he's on teleprompter on the State of the Union, obviously the biggest test of all?
Well, yeah, the president has been out there crisscrossing the country. We kicked off 2024. The president was in places like Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, Charleston, South Carolina. He's been crisscrossing the country to kick off the election year. Obviously, you mentioned tomorrow night, the State of the Union. The president will be front and center in front of the American people, not only reminding them of this historic record of accomplishment, but laying out everything that is at stake in this November and what we can accomplish over the course of the next 4 years, right? Building on the progress that we've made, restoring Roe as the law of the land, continuing to build on the $138 billion in student loan debt this president has already forgiven, building on the progress that we made from the first bipartisan gun violence legislation in a generation, and banning assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. The president is going to continue to go out and make the case directly to the American people over the course of the next 8 months. You can expect to see him, the vice president, everybody else crisscrossing the country over the course of the next couple of months as we continue to gear up here as we head into the general election posture, right? This is fundamentally a time for us to ramp up those efforts, and so you can absolutely expect the president, vice president, everybody else to be out on the stump regularly, communicating directly with the voters who are going to decide this election.
Michael, let me quickly ask you something that just broke in the Washington Post that's been passed to me, that Bernie Sanders had a private meeting with Joe Biden and urged him to echo FDR more and to go after big business, to basically use the Bernie Sanders lines. And that's not been a comfort level for Joe Biden, especially not as he's trying to be more of a general election candidate. But can you tell us anything about that private meeting with Bernie Sanders giving advice to Joe Biden?
I certainly can't speak to any private meetings that the president has had, but can certainly.
What about the general themes, the general advice?
Well, yeah, absolutely. As it relates to continuing to build an economy that grows from the middle out and the bottom up, we are going to contrast that against Donald Trump, whose entire economic policy is about serving people like himself. Rich folks, billionaires, wealthy corporations. This president is about fighting for working people, the middle class, the American people. That's going to be a fundamental economic contrast, not only tomorrow night, but over the course of the next 8 months. We're going to aggressively make that case because not only do we have the record, Donald Trump also has receipts of the damage, the chaos that he left behind because his entire economic agenda was about serving people like himself. It was not about serving the American people. So, yeah, that will be a contrast moving forward.